Instead of teaching this yoga, if I sit in Chennai and just predict people's future, I will tell you in the next 10 years exactly what will happen in your life. Within 3 days, I will have a reputation that half the Chennai will be standing in queue. Very easily I can do that. But in the yoga center also there are people who have been into so much sadhana, they can do such things. If they ever do such things, I will finish them. We won't let them go on with that nonsense. We'll immediately chuck them out of the place. Because by predicting somebody's future, you don't alter the quality of his life in any way. It is just that every object has an influence. Definitely, planetary positions have an influence. But whether you allow yourself to be influenced or not, that is in your hands. Now, anything that you want to do, you want to look at the planets and stars. You want to step out of your house, the planets should align themselves properly. Yes? Right time, wrong time. Are you looking at all those things? Rahu kalam, guna kalam, whatever else. If you want to get married, you go and ask the third person, can I live happily with my wife? I think it's obscene. Whatever the kind of fool you marry, why can't you live well with her or with him? Whatever kind of idiot you're married to, once you've chosen to marry, why don't you live well with them? Or if they're showing some new kind of madness that you did not predict, why don't you leave them? Anyway, with all the predictions, horoscopes all matching well, still, these two people nobody can match, isn't it? Any astrologer will match horoscopes for people, but can they match these two people? To what extent you're being responsible for the other, only to that extent your marriage works. Is it so? How responsibly you handle the other person, only to that extent it is working. Is that so? No. Personal development I'm talking. I understand. I'm talking about developing your life.
Like for example, you say that on a certain period of moon, like Amavasya or Purnima, the energies are more…
Yes, I'll come to that. Now, see, every shape, every form has a certain impact upon you. Now this vessel is sitting next to me, it is emanating its own kind of vibrations. Every object is doing it. But now it's up to me whether I allow this vessel to influence me or I influence this vessel. That's left to me. Which way should it be? Which way should it be? This vessel should influence my life or I should influence its existence? Human nature should do that, isn't it? Now, all these stars and planets, they're inanimate things, aren't they? Rock and stone, isn't it? Rock and mud, isn't it so? Inanimate. Now, should inanimate things rule the destiny of your life, or human nature should rule the destiny of inanimate things? Which way should it be? Human nature should, if you have realized the potential of what it means to be this. Otherwise, inanimate things will rule you. Now Paurnami comes, full moon day. Do you know, during full moon days and new moon days, people who are little mentally disturbed go hyper on those days? Are you aware of this? Do you all go crazy on new moon days? Do you? No. Compared to them, you are a little more stable. Because of this, wherever the moon goes, you can carry on your normal process of life. But for them it is not like that. Because they're in a certain level of instability, if the moon comes up, they're going crazy. The moon disappears, they're going crazy. So, you are a little more stable, suddenly moon has no impact upon you. It is pulling up the whole ocean, but no impact upon you if you're a little stable. Similarly, if you stabilize yourself further, nothing has an impact upon you, but you impact everything. Human nature should decide the course and the destiny of all inanimate things, not the other way around, isn't it? If you allow yourself to be influenced, anything and everything is willing to influence you. But that's not the way you should exist. You must take the course of your destiny into your hands, and you should go through what is needed to empower yourself that way, rather than waiting for the stars and planets to fall into position. Many of the stars that you're looking at up in the sky, they don't even exist, do you know? Many of them have disappeared long ago. Because they're so far away, the light is still coming, slowly. Yes, light is coming very slowly. That is why for so long you're seeing. Actually, the stars have disappeared long ago. But you are making your calculations based on those stars. It is just that every object has an influence. Definitely, planetary positions have an influence. But whether you allow yourself to be influenced or not, that is in your hands. If you have realized your human nature, you should not allow all these planets to decide your life, isn't it? You must decide the quality of your life.
Now, I won't go into all of this. Astrology. What is it that you're trying to do? You're trying to look at the positions of the planet and make certain predictions, right? I want you to understand, most of the time, people who make good predictions are people who, tell you about the past very clearly, or some people tell you tomorrow what's going to happen very clearly. They're not doing it looking at the planets, they're doing it looking at you. A certain intuitiveness is there in a certain person, he says. Instead of teaching this yoga, if I sit in Chennai and just predict people's future, I will tell you in the next 10 years exactly what will happen in your life. Within 3 days, I will have a reputation that half the Chennai will be standing in queue. Very easily I can do that. But in the yoga center also there are people who have been into so much sadhana, they can do such things. If they ever do such things, I will finish them. We won't let them go on with that nonsense. We'll immediately chuck them out of the place. Because by predicting somebody's future, you don't alter the quality of his life in any way. You don't bring any kind of true well-being. It is just, you're getting him into more and more ignorance, isn't it? Now, if you have the power to know your tomorrow, you will only become more ignorant, more egoistic, more stupid, more harmful. You go by the normal rules, it's okay, you don't have to know what's tomorrow. You are made like this right now, the quality of your life and your own way of being is such, if you know tomorrow today, you will not participate in today, isn't it? Yes or no? Suppose I tell you, whatever you do, you're not going to die. You will do irresponsible things in the world. Or if I tell you tomorrow morning anyway you will die, now you won't participate in today, isn't it? So, you should not know the future. It's not necessary for you to know the future. Can somebody predict? Yes, sometimes. But that's not 100%. It's never 100%. Every object has a certain influence on you. See, right now this vessel, because of its shape and its material, it has a certain influence. It has a certain vibration emanating from it. If I allow this vessel to influence me, I keep him next to me because he's quite a good friend. I'm not keeping a plastic pot because I don't like the things that he says. I keep this one because, saying pleasant things. I am always in good company, please see. But now if I allow this vessel to influence me too much, slowly I will become like a vessel. This will happen to you. Many people have become like vessels, isn't it? Haven't they? They will let things influence them so deeply, they will become like that. No, I won't let this copper vessel to influence me. But being in my company, he is so influenced. You will see, you take another copper vessel, you give me anything. Right now you give me any object. Just give it to me for 20 seconds. I'll hold it in my hand and give it back to you. It will be different. If you're sensitive, you can feel it is distinctly different. So, the question is just this, will you allow objects to influence you or will you influence the objects? Something else. The planets definitely are large objects, so they have certain vibrations, they have some influences on everything around them. If they're close to this planet, yes. Do you know, on Paurnami and Amavasya days, full moon day and new moon day days, people who are little mentally disturbed or imbalanced become much more imbalanced? Yes? Even the ocean is going crazy, isn't it? Do you all go crazy? Twice a month? Some of you are not saying anything. Okay. Twice a month if you're going crazy, you would have observed. Anyway, please ask your family, they will tell you. Now, compared to that person who has an imbalanced mind, you are much more stable, much more established. Wherever the moon goes, you don't go crazy. If you're much more established, wherever any planet goes, you don't go crazy, that's all. The purpose of your life, the destiny of your life is fixed by you and nothing else but you. Yes, everything has an influence, but what you make out of that influence is still yours, isn't it? But if you're going to be pushed around by inanimate objects, yes, you can be pushed around. To that extent it is true. I am saying, when the divine is functioning within you, when the creator is functioning within you, why are you allowing inanimate things to influence your life? If you allow this dimension to flower in you, you will see life happens fantastic. Let the stars go anywhere, let the planets go anywhere, you will go only where you want to go. You want to go where you want to go? Or you want to be pushed around by inanimate objects? You must decide that. Now, they're writing it in horoscope and giving it to you how you're going to live. Please tell me, if there is an intelligent person in this room, can you predict what he will do the next moment? He may do something that nobody has ever done, isn't it? If there is a fool here, if you look at him, you can say, okay, this is how you will live. If they have to write it on paper and give you, that this is the way you will live, what to do? That means you're refusing to use your intelligence, isn't it?
Okay, so my next question is about astrology as to…
All this time you're talking about taking charge of your destiny.
No, that's why I want to know that does it really I mean, to what percent is it actually relevant? Is it true? Can people really tell your future? Because I am somebody, if somebody says, you can't do this and I really want to do that, I'm like, hell yeah, I'm going to change it and I'm going to be able to do it, whether it's my work or my workspace or whatever. So, how much of astrology is true? How much of people can predict your future? Is it true that we are born with, a certain life that people predict?
You have a horoscope?
I do, which I've never read, but they say a lot of things.
I said a horoscope.
Horoscope?
Yeah,
No.
it's a horoscope because if it's already written what you could do and could not do, your life is a horror. True. Isn't
There's
it?
no excitement in life then.
It's not about excitement, there's no potential.
Right.
It's already written. You're not a potential life. You're a past life. We could have just framed the horoscope and bury you.
Right.
Instead of framing your picture after you die, we can frame the horoscope and bury you today. What is the problem? It's anyway the same thing. Because once you're past, it is just that which people remember about you, either it's written or in their minds, like a story.
So there's no science to it.
We'll come to that. There is some. See, every object, especially if it's a large object like a planet or a star, it is exuding its own reverberation. Right now, this vessel is exuding its own reverberation, believe me. It is. Scientifically, we can prove this, that it is exuding a certain level of reverberation. Right now, it contains water, so it is exuding one kind of reverb. Suppose we put milk in it, it will be exuding another kind of reverb. Suppose I pour some mercury in it, it will exude something totally different. So every object, every physical form has its own reverberation. Now, if I don't have an established way of being, now this vessel could slowly influence me. To such an extent, many people, they touch a vessel and after that they can't keep it down. Don't literally take a vessel. Many objects, they touch it and after that they can't keep it down, isn't it? Because without the reverberation of that, they cannot exist in many ways. So when this is the case, a planet could have its own reverberation. Now, it is up to me whether this vessel will determine my destiny or I will decide the destiny of this vessel is up to me. Because, I'll ask you a simple question, between inanimate objects and human consciousness, which do you think is of a superior dimension of function? Of course, human being, isn't it? In a way, this is also a piece of the planet, it's just earth, isn't it? It's just the soil. Either we get it now or one day we'll get it from the maggots, but it is the soil. But here it reverberates in a certain way because it's conscious, it's intelligent, it's many things, very brainy. Hey, you got a certificate, I don't have, so I'm using it.
You have a certificate from the world, everyone's here listening to you.
So, this is conscious. This should determine the nature and the destiny of the inanimate object. When I say inanimate object, what you call as a planet, all the 11 planets are also inanimate. Yes, they're big, but they're inanimate. The stars that you're talking about also are inanimate, and many of the stars that you believe are there are not there, actually. Yes, many of them are actually not there. They died long time ago. Because it takes light years for the light to reach you, you think it is there, but they're gone many million years ago. So, inanimate objects should decide the destiny of human consciousness, or human consciousness should determine the destiny of inanimate objects, which way it should be. This should decide, isn't it? But right now, a whole lot of people are allowing inanimate objects to decide their destiny. They definitely have an influence. Will you allow it or not is the question. Do you know that on full moon nights and no moon nights, we are on the coastal city, the waves are coming up, tides. Do you also know people, if they're psychologically disturbed, on those days they become much more disturbed? Yes? I'm asking you, this is between you and me. Do you go crazy on full moon nights?
No.
No?
I never go crazy. I find it hard.
So that means the full moon, which has such a big influence on the ocean, such a big influence on that person who's mentally fragile, has no influence on you? So, the thing is whether you are going to allow it to influence you or will you influence it, is the question. Full moon is only rising certain things within you. If the whole ocean is rising, obviously all the fluids in our body, including our blood and everything else, all the gland secretions, everything is rising. It doesn't create madness. If you're little crazy, it'll make you more crazy. If you're joyful, it'll make you more joyful. If you're loving, it'll make you more loving. Whatever you are, it enhances you a little bit because it's pushing it up. Over 70% of this body is fluid, isn't it? So if the ocean is rising, is nothing rising? Definitely something is rising. So full moon day means, in this country, full moon days and new moon days were the real holidays. Because it has something to do with our life. On that day you go to the temple, on that day you meditate, on that day you spend with the family, all kinds of things. This was important. We took away that science because our bodies and our existence is very deeply linked with the solar system, the way it functions. But will we ride the cycle or will we be crushed by the cycle? This is a choice that we have. If you learn to ride it, it'll be fantastic. If you don't learn, of course they'll crush you.
Of course. So it's all about the willpower and the internal…
Conscious, being conscious.
consciousness.